This is CBS News New York.
Breaking news, the California wildfires continuing to intensify, claiming the lives of at least 5 people. Homes destroyed and more than 100,000 acres scorched, while high winds remain a problem for firefighters trying to battle the flames.
In Washington, D.C., remembering former President Jimmy Carter this morning, he'll be honored with a state funeral as the nation marks a day of mourning.
Lots happening today. Mayor Adams delivers his 2025 State of the City address. He plans to highlight his administration's successes amidst the ongoing legal battles he currently faces.
Good morning on this Thursday, January 9th. I'm Chris Raggi.
And I'm Mary Calvi. Welcome to CBS News New York. But first, let's get right to Tony Sadiku. He has your first alert forecast in the virtual studio at 4:59.
Hi, Mary and Chris. Yeah, the big story, you see it right there behind me. It is the winds, and as potent as the winds have felt the last couple of days, this is the first day of the week that we actually have wind advisory. So you're waking up wishing the winds are done. Well, they're not done with us yet. Until 10 o'clock, a good portion of the area, the winds will remain a problem. In fact, right now, here's the situation. You got gusts in the neighborhood of nearly 30 miles per hour in pockets to White Plains, where, half an hour ago we were checking, it was over 50. All that's doing is driving home the cold. Wind chills 3 degrees. That's what it feels like in White Plains. It feels like 10 in Greenwich and Babylon and in the city at the moment. So as you know, the layers necessary again today, the scarves, the hats, the gloves. Here's how the day stacks up by the temperatures. Sun and clouds, abundant sun and clouds, but the temperatures barely move because you're contending with the wind. Maybe we could get near freezing by noon, but again, temperatures will quickly fall off from there. It is a dry day, though. I do want to talk about what's on the way. Of course, we're talking about the cold and gusty winds. Winds finally subsiding. There is an end in sight. We'll talk about that. And the latest on the snow chance into the weekend. All those details in a moment. But first, I want to check in with Guy Stanier and your first alert traffic on a Thursday morning. Hey, Guy.
Good morning, Tony. We're going to start in New Jersey. We have the usual construction. It has the truck lanes closed on the northbound side of the turnpike, right between exits 8 and 14. All traffic is routed to the car lanes. Thankfully, no delays through the area. We have some subway issues between Manhattan and Brooklyn. Southbound Q trains are running along the R line. This is due to a rail replacement project right near DeKalb Avenue. Taking a live look at the George Washington Bridge, the inbound lower level just reopened as construction has been picked up. No delays to the inbound upper or lower levels. The Lincoln and Holland tunnels are delay-free. Alternate side parking is in effect today citywide. Chris and Mary, back to you.
Guy, thank you. This morning, we continue to follow breaking news out of Los Angeles, where multiple wildfires are continuing to burn at this hour. This is what we know so far. Right now, there are at least 5 active fires burning together. They cover more than 26,000 acres. The biggest one is the Palisades fire, which has burned through more than 15,000 acres with 0 containment reported at this time. The Sunset fire is now burning in the Hollywood Hills. In all, 130,000 people are now under evacuation orders.
As the fire spreads to Hollywood, it is threatening some of the area's most popular tourist attractions.
And after being forced to evacuate in a hurry, many California homeowners without fire insurance now trying to figure out what is their next move. Natalie Dudger joins us now with more on the wildfires that have devastated Southern California.
Well, Chris and Mary, this is being called the deadliest fire event in LA County history. Many are asking, how did this happen? Well, these wildfires don't typically happen in January, but Southern California has received so little rain. In fact, it's the second driest stretch in nearly 150 years. Take that, combine it with hurricane-strength winds. That has made this situation catastrophic, especially for residents trying to escape.
Ferocious winds driving wildfires across Southern California, forcing some evacuees to flee on foot, ditching their cars.
There's a lot of fire right there. That's why the people coming. We leave the car.
It was so surreal. I felt like we were in that movie, The War of the Worlds. I didn't recognize the streets that I were on as our own.
Firefighters from across the country are descending on Los Angeles County, battling flames that show no sign of slowing. Officials say at least 5 people have died, 1,000 structures destroyed. At least 3 of the fires had 0% containment at last check. In Pasadena, staff at a local nursing home worked to evacuate residents.
It's tough. It's tough. They can't get up. They're stuck on the wheelchairs.
This 91-year-old's family home scorched along with irreplaceable memories.
It's my whole life.
Everything was in there.
So
lost everything.
Actor Steve Guttenberg jumped into action in his neighborhood, helping people evacuate. His wife, Emily, former CBS News New York reporter, got out safely. She's been checking in with her husband hourly.
So he was warning people, if you ditch your car, leave the keys so that we can get them out of the street and so the fire crews can make it up. It's bittersweet because it's really scary to have a loved one, in the line of fire like that.
The fate of their home and so many others unknown.
This is the best neighborhood. Everybody knows each other. Everybody helps each other out. Before he left, our neighbor Brad here, he was putting out little fires on, before he felt like he just had to go. He was putting out little fires on our property, and who knows, maybe that saved our house.
Experts say this is the second driest stretch since 1877. Downtown LA has only received a quarter inch of rain since May.
And experts say the combination of powerful winds, bone-dry vegetation from prolonged drought, and delayed rainy season has made this extremely challenging for firefighters. And just in the last couple minutes, I spoke with our First Alert weather team, and they say there is no rain in the forecast in this area for at least the next several days. Chris and Mary.
Our thoughts are with them, Natalie. Thank you. And look for continuing coverage on the Los Angeles wildfires right here on CBS News New York. We'll talk live with a reporter on the ground in California in our next half hour with the very latest on this.
In other news now, happening today, Mayor Adams set to deliver his 2025 State of the City address at the Apollo Theater in Harlem.
It comes as the mayor faces a federal corruption trial starting in April and begins his bid for re-election. Elijah Westbrook joins us live from Harlem with more on what we could expect from today's speech. Elijah.
That's right. Good morning to you, Mary and Chris. Big day for Mayor Eric Adams. He's expected to take center stage right there across the street at the Apollo Theater here in Harlem and discuss a wide range of topics from crime to the affordable housing problem here in the city. Now, all of this, as you would expect, during a very unsettling time for the mayor, one might say, given the federal charges he's facing and the looming corruption trial starting on April 21st. Now, while the mayor prepares for that, he's expected to tout what he might describe as wins under his administration, particularly regarding crime dropping last year. In fact, Adams insists that New York is still the safest city in America, despite some of the horrific incidents in recent weeks, including a Manhattan stabbing spree, the United Healthcare CEO being shot in Midtown, and a woman who was burned to death on a subway in Brooklyn. The mayor is expected to make a pivotal speech that will likely kick off his bid for re-election this year. He has had a controversial time in office, from his handling of the migrant crisis to his ongoing federal legal woes, which impacted officials on his staff, many of whom have stepped down in recent months. But again, all of this happening later on today, specifically at noon, right across the street at the Apollo Theater. And that is where we are reporting live from this morning. I'm Elijah Westbrook, CBS News New York.
Okay, Elijah, thank you. And Connecticut's new legislative session kicked off yesterday with Governor Lamont's State of the State address. And the governor mentioned President-elect Trump several times, warning that his actions could affect the state's plans. But he said that shouldn't stop lawmakers from building on the accomplishments of the last few years.
We've significantly increased the minimum wage over the last 6 years. And no, that was not a job killer. We have more private sector jobs today than ever before. And we made it easier to start a family here in Connecticut, with one of the most robust family and medical leave programs in the country. And yes, it is solvent.
Another key focus of the governor's speech was the high cost of energy. He urged lawmakers to increase the state's energy supply through renewable sources such as wind and nuclear power.
5:07 today is the state funeral for President Jimmy Carter.
And these are live pictures now from the Capitol Rotunda in Washington, where Carter is lying in state. Later this morning, President Biden will eulogize him at the National Cathedral. President-elect Trump is expected to attend. The Majestic Church is the second largest in the U.S. It's played host to 4 state funerals in the past. Today, roughly 3,000 people will attend the service for President Carter, a service he had part in planning before he died at the age of 100. And Carter's remains will then be flown to Plains, Georgia, his home, for a private service. He'll be buried next to his wife, Rosalind, at his family's peanut farm, and we'll bring you coverage of the funeral live in a special report right here on CBS News New York that begins at 9 o'clock this morning.
5:08 right now. President-elect Trump is not giving up his fight to try to delay Friday's sentencing in his criminal hush money case. Trump's request was denied by Judge Juan Merchan, as well as a New York appellate judge. Trump's attorneys have now filed an application with the U.S. Supreme Court to have the sentencing halted while he appeals.
And sentencing for former Congressman George Santos is now delayed until April 25th. Santos was originally scheduled to be sentenced next month after he pled guilty to fraud and identity theft. He requested more time to make money from his podcast in order to pay the hundreds of thousands of dollars he owes in fines. His attorney said it was unfortunate how difficult the government is making the process. Santos could face up to 22 years in prison. And now let's get to meteorologist Tony Sadico in our virtual studio this morning. Tony?
And Chris, yeah, the big story the last couple of days, how cold, how dry, how windy it's been. And that story doesn't change today. In fact, wind advisories, as we mentioned, here's what you can expect. Winds ranging anywhere from 35 to 50 miles per hour. At times, you can do a little minor damage. But of course, what we're talking about, given the cold temperatures, is what it makes it feel like. And those wind chills today are stuck in the teens in many areas. Thankfully, the winds do improve and will get better here in the coming days. But then the focus will shift to this. A winter storm developing from the deep south, going to move through the mid-Atlantic. And what does it mean for us snow-wise? We're continuing to get updates in the models and better consensus on how we think things will pan out into the weekend. We'll have details on that in a moment. But right now it's back to Guy Stanier and your first alert traffic. Hey, Guy.
Good morning, Tony. We're going to start in New Jersey. We have the usual construction. It has the truck lanes closed on the northbound side of the turnpike, right between exits 8 and 14. All traffic is routed to the car lanes. We do have some subway issues between Manhattan and Brooklyn. Southbound Q trains are running along the R line due to a rail replacement project right near DeKalb Avenue. Checking Mass Transit's Big Four, everything running on or close to schedule for Metro North, PATH trains, New Jersey Transit, and the LIRR. Alternate side parking is in effect today citywide. Chris and Mary, back to you.
Okay, Guy, thank you. It's 10 after the hour right now. Coming up, a new report out on gun violence in New Jersey, who Governor Murphy says is to thank for curbing violent crime.
A warning from doctors this morning as temperatures drop. Cases for certain viruses are increasing. The quad-demic that's threatening the city and what doctors are suggesting you do to stay healthy.